The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Union stretched upward into artificial darkness, its vaulted ceiling embedded with holographic stars representing the 47 member species. Katniss stood at the human delegation's platform, her hands clasped professionally behind her back, her expression carefully neutral. Beside her, Jackson reviewed the diplomatic brief on his datapad one final time, his jaw tight with concentration. This was humanity's third year in the Union, and every single day had been an exercise in restraint. The human delegation will now present their grievance, announced Council Speaker Threlvox, their crystalline form refracting the chamber's amber light into rainbow fractals. Katniss stepped forward, triggering the holographic display. Images of human colony ships, trade routes, and settlement permits materialized in the air above the assembly. Honored Council, we bring to your attention a matter of escalating concern. Over the past 8 months, human vessels have been interdicted 47 times by Krellian patrols, our cargo seized under pretense of... Pretense? The Krellian ambassador's chitinous plates rattled with indignation. We enforce Union trade law. Perhaps if humans learn to follow regulations, we follow every regulation. Jackson interjected, his voice level but firm. Every single one. We've submitted to searches, delays, and confiscations of legally acquired goods. We've filed the proper complaints through proper channels. We've been, as is our custom, exceedingly patient. The Vryn Observer, a floating mass of bioluminescent tendrils, pulsed yellow, their equivalent of a dismissive laugh. Patience. How quaint. The younger species always believed they've invented courtesy. Katniss felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the one she'd been trained to ignore in diplomatic school, the one that every human representative learned to suppress. She continued, We request a formal investigation into these interdictions and compensation for... Denied, Threlvox said simply. The Krellians are within their rights to ensure security. Your grievance is noted and dismissed. Next matter. Something in the chamber shifted. It was subtle. A change in the quality of silence, perhaps, or the way Jackson's breathing had gone very still beside her. Noted and dismissed, Katniss repeated slowly. Just like the previous 12 complaints. Just like our petition for fair trade route access. Just like our request for colonial expansion rights that every other species receives automatically. The human delegation will stand down, Threlvox warned, but Katniss didn't stand down. For 3 years she had smiled through condescension. She had nodded politely through dismissals. She had translated, "You're too primitive to understand," into, "Thank you for your perspective," in 47 different languages. And she was done. No, she said quietly. The word echoed in the vast chamber like a gunshot. Jackson looked at her, and she saw the same exhaustion in his eyes, the same bone-deep fatigue of being humanity's perpetually polite doormat. He stepped forward to stand beside her. You want to know why humans are courteous? Katniss asked, her voice rising. It's not because we're weak. It's not because we don't know how to fight. We've been courteous because we've seen what happens when we're not. We've burned our own world a dozen times over learning that lesson. The Vryn's bioluminescence flickered uncertainty. We invented courtesy as a survival mechanism, Jackson added, his diplomatic mask finally cracking. Because when humans stop being courteous, when we stop choosing patience over instinct, things get very loud and very violent very quickly. Is this a threat? The Krellian ambassador hissed. It's a warning, Katniss said. For 3 years we've operated in courteous mode. We've taken your dismissals, your condescension, your petty theft dressed up as security. We've done it because we genuinely wanted to be part of this union. We believed in what it represented. She pulled up new data, incident reports, medical logs, casualty figures from the interdictions that the Council had never bothered to review. But you've mistaken our courtesy for weakness. You've mistaken our patience for stupidity, and now you're pushing us toward a threshold we really, really don't want to cross. You would dare threaten this Council? Threlvox's crystalline form darkened to an ominous purple. We're not threatening anyone, Jackson said, but there was something ancient and dangerous in his smile now. We're simply informing you that humanity's courteous mode has failed. Not because we wanted it to, not because we chose it, but because you've left us no other option. Katniss deactivated the holo display. We came from a world where we fought each other for 10,000 years over every conceivable difference. Religion, resources, ideas, land, We got very, very good at war. And then we got so good at it that we nearly destroyed ourselves. Courtesy isn't our natural state. It's what we built to save ourselves from ourselves. The chamber had gone utterly silent. So here's what's going to happen, Jackson continued. You're going to investigate the Krellian interdictions. You're going to grant us the same trade and colonial rights you grant everyone else. You're going to start treating us like actual members of this union, instead of amusing primitives who should be grateful to sit at the big kids' table. And if we refuse? Threlvox asked. Katniss met the speaker's prismatic gaze. Then you'll learn firsthand why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war, before we ever considered the possibility of peace. You'll discover that our politeness was a gift, not a weakness, and gifts once rejected enough times stop being offered. She gathered her materials, Jackson doing the same beside her. We're not leaving the Union, Katniss said as they reached the platform exit. But we're done asking nicely. From now on, we operate on the same terms as everyone else, including the ones who don't say please. They walked out of the Grand Council chamber, leaving 47 species in stunned silence. Behind them, the Vryn observer pulsed a deep, uncertain red. Did the humans just... Yes, Threlvox said quietly, their crystalline form flickering through colors of confusion and dawning respect. They did, and I believe we may have made a catastrophic miscalculation. The Krellian ambassador's plates rattled nervously. Surely they're bluffing. They're a single world, barely. They're a single world that split atoms before they reached their own moon, another counselor interjected. That fought global wars with millions of casualties and kept fighting. That built weapons capable of destroying their entire planet and somehow chose not to use them. Threlvox's form settled into a somber blue. Schedule an emergency session. I believe humanity's grievances require immediate reconsideration. Outside the chamber, Katniss and Jackson walked in silence until they reached the human embassy wing. Only then did Jackson let out a long, shaky breath. We just ended 3 years of diplomatic policy in about 5 minutes, he said. Katniss smiled grimly. Yeah, but I'm tired of being polite to people who mistake it for permission to walk all over us. Think they'll actually listen? They will now, she said, because they finally understand what every human already knows. Courtesy is a choice we make, and every choice can be unmade. Behind them in the Grand Council chamber, the real negotiations were finally about to begin.